Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome into Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. You know what, guys? It's Saturday. We're less than 24 hours away from the start of the full slate of Sunday games for Week 6. And you know what? It being Saturday, that means it is time for my spread picks for the week. I'm going to be going over every single matchup, obviously excluding the Thursday night game as that has already happened. And I'm going to be giving you my predictions for betting lines in every single game, plus a brief fantasy outlook, including injury reports for every single matchup for Sunday and Monday Night Football. Guys, I'm going to get right into it, but if you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. If you do enjoy my content today, make sure to give me a thumbs up, as likes help my channel tremendously. All right, so the first game of the week is going to be the Jags and the Dolphins. They're giving the Dolphins 3 points in this game. Guys, this is just silly. I think that they, look, the Dolphins are not going to have an answer for the Jaguars' run game. James Robinson has been on fire the past 3 games. Jacksonville has figured out that in order to move the ball, they need to pound the rock with James Robinson. The Miami Dolphins' run defense is absolutely terrible. They're not going to have an answer for this, and the Jaguars are going to move the ball at will in this game. I still don't trust the Miami Dolphins' offense to be able to move the ball against Jacksonville, even with Tua Tagovailoa coming back. I think this is going to be a little bit more lopsided than people think it is, and I think the Jaguars might even win by more than a touchdown. I'm definitely not buying Miami -3, and you want to put your money on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week, guys, 100%. And as far as the fantasy outlook, the only player really on either side of the ball that you want to start is James Robinson. You can't trust Trevor Lawrence or any other wide receivers for Jacksonville. Can't trust Myles Gaskin, even though he had a good week last week. Can't trust Tua T or any other wide receivers. So the only fantasy-relevant stud in this game is James Robinson. On to my next game for the week. We got the Chiefs and the Washington football team. The Chiefs are getting 6.5 points in this game. That is not nearly enough. The Chiefs are coming off an embarrassing loss to the Buffalo Bills. They're still one of the best teams in the entire NFL. And an angry Pat Mahomes is probably going to be a very dangerous Pat Mahomes. I think that the Chiefs are going to win this game by 20 or more points. And 6.5 points isn't nearly enough. You want to put your money on the Chiefs in this game. Fantasy studs, obviously, Tyreek Hill's dealing with an injury, but if he's healthy, you want to play him. I would start McCole Hardman in this game with confidence, guys, if you have McCole Hardman on your team. I think with teams double-teaming Tyreek Hill the way they have been, there's going to be just more underneath routes that are open for McCole Hardman to feast. And for PPR formats, he's going to be really good. Obviously, you're starting Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes. On the other side of the ball for the Washington football team, if Gibson's healthy, you're playing Gibson. If McKissick steps in because of Gibson's injury, then you're playing McKissick, and you're obviously starting Terry McLaurin. Can't trust Taylor Heineke. But as far as the game spread, the Chiefs should definitely blow the doors off the Washington football team. My next one for the week is going to be the Chargers and the Ravens. The Ravens getting 2.5 points. That's kind of ridiculous. The Chargers are a way better football team, and so the two teams have the same record, so what? I think the Chargers are one of the best teams in the entire NFL, guys. Their only loss this year was to a very good Cowboys team. They beat the Chiefs. I mean, the Ravens beat the Chiefs as well, but just when you look at the matchups, I just don't think that the Ravens are going to have an answer for Austin Eckler and the Chargers run game. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. And even if Mike Williams doesn't play, the Chargers should have absolutely no trouble moving the ball against the Ravens. Not so sure that the Ravens are going to be able to move the ball as well against the Chargers as they do against most teams, because the Chargers do have a pretty good run defense, and I think they'll actually do a pretty good job of keeping Lamar Jackson at bay as far as not letting him run all over them. So the only real threats left for the Ravens are going to be Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, and that's just not going to be enough firepower to beat this Chargers team. They should not be favored in this game, and you definitely want to put your money on the Los Angeles Chargers. The next game for the week is going to be the Vikings and the Panthers. The Vikings -1 on the road against Carolina. Guys, I think the Vikings are going to win this game. Their pass rush has actually looked a lot better lately. They've been getting after the quarterback. Another game with no Christian McCaffrey for the Carolina Panthers, so it's pretty much going to be the all Sam Darnold and DJ Moore show. That's just not going to be enough firepower to beat the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are just way too good. They have way too many weapons. Dalvin Cook is healthy. Just the running back landscape can be the difference in this game. The fact that Dalvin Cook is healthy and Christian McCaffrey isn't should automatically favor the Minnesota Vikings, as these teams would normally be pretty even otherwise. So you definitely want to put your money on the Minnesota Vikings in this game. I think they're going to hand the Panthers their 3rd loss in a row on the road in Carolina. As far as fantasy studs in this game, you definitely want to start Justin Jefferson. If you need a streaming option, you could play Kirk Cousins. I think he's going to be big this week. The Carolina defense has been pretty good, but I don't think it's as good as everybody makes it out to be. They had a really easy schedule to start the season, so I think their defense looked a lot better than it actually is. So start Kirk Cousins if you need a streaming option. Obviously, you're starting Dalvin Cook. If for whatever reason Dalvin Cook randomly is out before the beginning of the game because of his injury, you're starting Alexander Mattison. You should know that by this point. And on the other side of the ball for Carolina, you definitely want to start DJ Moore, and you can start Sam Darnold with confidence as he's going to be passing a lot in this game with no Christian McCaffrey. The next game on the week is going to be the Rams and the Giants. Rams minus 9.5. That's a pretty big point spread considering they're playing on the road in New York. But the entire Giants team is banged up. I mean, no Saquon. Daniel Jones, even if he plays, might not really be at 100%. We don't even know what receivers are going to be playing. Galladay is out. Kadarius Toney might be the number one guy, but is Slayton going to play? Is Sterling Shepard going to play? These guys are still questionable. There's just way too many question marks on the Giants right now. They're coached by Jason Garrett, who pretty much has absolutely no ability to adjust on the fly to these sorts of situations, as he only is a pretty basic NFL coach that really he's just not going to be able to adjust enough for the Giants to be able to have a chance in this game. I just don't see them have any chance of winning against the Rams. I think that the Rams are going to win by 20-plus points. This is going to be quite literally the most lopsided game of the entire week. So put your money on the Los Angeles Rams, even though it's a massive 9.5-point spread. As far as fantasy studs for the game, I wouldn't start anyone on the Giants with confidence. If you need streaming options, you could play any of the available wide receivers just because they have to throw the ball to somebody, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton or Sterling Shepard, but that's only if you need streaming options. Look elsewhere for fantasy production. As far as the Rams, you're definitely starting Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee at tight end, and you can start Matt Stafford with confidence as well, and obviously Darrell Henderson Jr. And moving on to the next game, we're going to have the Packers and the Bears. The Packers are -5 on the road against the Bears. Guys, the Packers are going to beat the Bears pretty handily in this game, I believe. The Packers have just been rolling since week one. They had that bad week one, and the offense has been on fire since then. And this Bears team, their defense is not as good as people make it out to be. The Bears defense has absolutely no chance of stopping the Aaron Jones on the run game for the Packers. A.J. Dillon has also looked pretty good out of the backfield. I don't think that the Bears they're not going to have any answer for the Packers. The Packers are going to put up 30-plus points on the Bears like they do to most teams in most weeks, and the Bears don't even have their starting running back. David Montgomery's out, Damian Williams is out, so they're just not going to have enough firepower to keep up with the Packers. I think the Packers are going to win pretty handily in this game, and -5 on the road. They're not really giving the Packers enough points in this game. I think they're definitely going to cover the spread, and you want to put your money in Green Bay in this game. Obviously, start Aaron Rodgers, start Aaron Jones. I'm not confident enough to start A.J. Dillon yet. You're obviously starting Devontae Adams. On the other side of the ball, I wouldn't start anyone for the Chicago Bears. You can't trust Justin Fields yet. I wouldn't trust Khalil Herbert as a backup running back, so you're going to need to look elsewhere for fantasy options. The next game of the week is going to be we got the Texans and the Colts. Colts -10 in Indianapolis. Guys, I am not buying this. I understand that the Colts have a really good running game. The Texans have a bad run defense, and they've looked really bad. Ever since Tyrod Taylor went down, but the Colts are just not a good enough football team to be getting 10 points in this game. The running game will be good for the Colts in this game, but it's not going to be enough to just run over the Texans. This is not a very good offense. Obviously, Carson Wentz has been looking a little bit better, but I really don't trust him to give you consistent production week in and week out yet. And so I think the Texans will keep this game closer than people think they will. 10 points for the Colts is just way too much. I would put your money on the Texans in this game. And as far as a fantasy outlook, you're definitely starting Brandon Cooks because while I don't think the Colts are going to cover the spread, I do think they will be playing with the lead, and they're going to have to pass a lot to their number one passing option, Brandon Cooks, in order to keep up in this game. So start Brandon Cooks on the Texans, but nobody else. Obviously, you're going to be starting Jonathan Taylor on the Colts and Michael Pittman Jr., but that's it. Don't start any of the other players on the Colts. Can't trust Carson Wentz yet. Moving on to the next game for the week, we've got the Bengals and the Lions. The Bengals are getting 3.5 points on the road against the Lions. Guys, I would take the Bengals in this game. The Lions aren't going to be able to move the ball on the Bengals. The Bengals pass rush has been pretty good this year. The Lions have just been only relying on DeAndre Swift to move the ball. This isn't going to work. They're not going to be able to move the ball, and the defense definitely isn't going to have an answer for the Cincinnati Bengals because they got all their firepower back. I mean, all their receivers are back. T. Higgins is back. Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase is on fire. Healthy Joe Burrow. Mixon's probably going to be at 100%. I could see the Bengals putting up 40 points on Detroit in this game, and just a 3-point spread. I mean, guys, that's just not enough, man. I mean, or sorry, a 3.5-point spread. That's not enough. The Bengals are going to win this game by more than a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 20 points. I'm definitely putting the money on on the Bengals in this game. As far as a fantasy outlook, guys, you're starting Joe Mixon. Get P. Ryan off the waiver wire just as an insurance policy. You can start Joe Burrow with confidence. And I think that you can start any Bengals wide receiver. Any of the three studs, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, or Tyler Boyd. Obviously, Jamar Chase is the number one guy, but you can start Tyler Boyd. You can start T. Higgins. I think that they're just going to absolutely feast against the Lions. So every fantasy starter on the Bengals, you pretty much want to start in your lineup. On the other side of the ball, the only player you want to start is DeAndre Swift. He's a dual threat back, focal point of the offense, so start him because he's a very talented running back, and they're going to be running the offense through DeAndre Swift all season long. But that's the only player you want to start on the Lions. Otherwise, you need to look elsewhere for fantasy production. The next game on the week is going to be the Browns and the Cardinals. The Browns are favored at home by 3 points. I think this is about accurate. I think that the Browns are going to hand the Cardinals their first loss this week, even without Nick Chubb. It looks like Kareem Hunt is going to play. And despite the Cardinals supposedly having a good run defense, they're not going to be able to stop the Browns' run game because nobody can stop the Browns' run game. I think we'll see a little bit more of Odell Beckham in this game with Nick Chubb out because they're going to have to be passing the ball a little bit more since they don't have both of their running backs. And look for Odell Beckham to have one of his first big fantasy performances of the season. So Odell Beckham's definitely a sleeper for the week. And the Cardinals got to lose a game at some point. I don't see their defense being able to contain the Browns whatsoever. And the Browns' defense has been surrendering points as well. I definitely see this being a shootout, but I just think that on the road, the Browns are the slightly better team in this week. So I'm putting my money on the Browns in this game for sure. As far as a fantasy outlook, you're obviously starting Kareem Hunt. I would start Baker Mayfield in this game. He obviously hasn't been that great for fantasy this year, but they're going to have to be passing more in this game with no Nick Chubb. So Baker Mayfield is going to have a pretty good game, considering this is going to be a high-scoring shootout. Baker Mayfield could definitely go off this week, so don't be afraid to stream Baker Mayfield, and definitely don't be afraid to start Odell Beckham. On the other side of the ball, you're definitely starting Chase Edmonds if he plays. I know that he's questionable right now. If he plays, you're starting him. If Chase Edmonds doesn't play, you're definitely starting James Conner, and you're obviously starting both Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. And anybody who watched my sleepers videos knows that I'm actually pretty big on Christian Kirk this week as well. It's going to be a high-scoring shootout type of game. Christian Kirk's notorious for exploiting good defensive matchups, so I think he's going to have a big week. So start Christian Kirk with confidence as well. Moving on, so there's definitely a lot of fantasy options in that game available. So lots of fantasy studs on both sides of the ball. Next game for the week is the Cowboys and the Patriots. The Cowboys are favored by 3.5 on the road against the Patriots. This is not nearly enough. This is going to be one of the most lopsided games of the week. People aren't giving the Cowboys enough credit yet, guys. I mean, they're clearly one of the best teams in the NFL. The defense has stepped up significantly. The Patriots just aren't going to have a way to move the ball against them. Damian Harris hasn't been a reliable running back as far as moving the ball. And I just don't trust them to be able to compete with the Cowboys in this game. Their defense is not going to have an answer for the Cowboys. Even if Ezekiel Elliott happened to be out, Tony Pollard could run all over him because this offensive line is absolutely unstoppable. And the Cowboys are going to run over the Patriots in this game. So put your money on the Cowboys. As far as fantasy, if Zeke is playing, you're starting Ezekiel Elliott. You're starting Tony Pollard, whether Zeke is playing or not. Tony Pollard is a fine flex option. If Zeke is out, Tony Pollard becomes a running back one. And you're definitely starting Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And on the other side of the ball, for the New England Patriots, I think you could start Jacoby Myers in this game. He didn't have a lot of volume last week, but he's been trending in the right direction as far as targets. I think he's going to be a PPR monster this year out of the slot, and I think he will end up being the team's number one wide receiver, and it won't be a situation where they're just spreading the ball around like crazy all season. So start Jacoby Myers with confidence. You don't want to start Mac Jones or really any other receivers. And you could start Damian Harris with confidence just because he should get a lot of volume in this game. So volume alone, you could start Damian Harris. So that's it for that game. And then the next game on the week is going to be the Raiders and the Broncos. The Broncos are actually favored in this game at home. This makes absolutely no sense to me. The Raiders, I mean, they were looking really good at the beginning of the season. They started 3-0, and then they've had a down week the past couple of weeks, but they've still got plenty of firepower. Josh Jacobs is back, so the offense is only going to be better. I don't see the Broncos really having an answer for the Raiders in this game. 3.5 points for the Broncos being favored, that's just ridiculous. I think the Raiders are going to win this game straight up, so put your money on the Raiders this week against the Broncos. And as far as the fantasy options, you can start Derek Carr with confidence. You're definitely starting Josh Jacobs. I would fade the Raiders receivers right now. Don't start any of them, but definitely start Darren Waller. On the other side of the ball for the Broncos, I think you could start Melvin Gordon this week with confidence, but that's the only Bronco that I want to start on that side of the ball. So that's it for that game. And then the next game on the week is going to be the Steelers and the Seahawks and the Steelers. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are -5 at home against the Seahawks. Guys, I'm not buying this whatsoever. I think that Geno Smith will come in and actually do really well against the Steelers. The Steelers' defense has been absolutely terrible this year, and they just suck. The Steelers suck, guys. Their defense is absolutely terrible. They're giving up the third most passing yards to wide receivers, and the offense hasn't been able to move the ball. The Seattle defense hasn't been very good this year, but I don't think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to move the ball on them. And I think that as bad as their secondary is, that Geno Smith will be able to get Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf the ball in this game. So start these guys with confidence in fantasy and put your money on the Seahawks to win this game in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh should not be getting 5 points at home in this game. That's absolutely ridiculous, guys. The Seahawks are going to come out and beat the Steelers. I'm more sure about this than I am most of my bets this week. So put your money on the Seahawks this week, guys. As far as the fantasy outlook is concerned, obviously Russell Wilson is out, but Geno Smith is a competent backup quarterback. He'll be able to get the ball to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf in this game. I'm not big on the Tyler Lockett-Geno Smith connection in most games because Tyler Lockett is deep ball dependent, but this Pittsburgh secondary is just really bad, guys. So I think that you could start Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with confidence. Start Alex Collins, and if you need a streamer, you could start Geno Smith. He's going to have a pretty decent game against Pittsburgh. On the other side of the ball, you're not starting Big Ben or you're definitely not going to start Big Ben, but you can definitely start Deontay Johnson with confidence. Start Chase Claypool and start Najee Harris, obviously. Moving on to the next game of the week, we've got the Bills and the Titans. In Tennessee, Buffalo -5.5. Guys, I would just feel silly betting against the Buffalo Bills right now, as good as they've looked. So I'm just going to keep rolling with the Bills. It looks like Julio Jones is going to be back for the Titans, and that's going to help things. But this Buffalo Bills defense is so good. I just don't think that Derrick Henry is going to be able to run on the Bills like he's been running on every other team. They have the best pass defense in football, so are they going to be able to get Julio Jones and A.J. Brown the ball? I'm not so sure. I just don't think the Titans are going to be able to move the ball at all against the Bills, and the Titans definitely aren't going to have an answer for the Bills offense, as no team has an answer for the Bills offense. I could see them winning this game by 2 touchdowns or more, so only getting 5.5 points on the road against Tennessee isn't enough. I would definitely put your money on the Buffalo Bills in this game, and as far as the fantasy outlook, definitely start Stephon Diggs, start Emmanuel Sanders, start Josh Allen, obviously. Start Dawson Knox. Start Zach Moss. And on the other side of the ball, for the Titans, you're obviously starting Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter what the matchup is. I wouldn't start Julio Jones, guys. I would look elsewhere for wide receivers. We don't know how healthy he is. He's notorious for getting back on the field and re-injuring himself. So look elsewhere for wide receivers this week other than Julio Jones. A.J. Brown, I guess you got to start him, but it's just not the best situation. So if you can find a better wide receiver, then do that. But my money is definitely on the Bills to cover the spread in this game. All right, guys, those are my predictions and fantasy outlooks for every single game this week. I hope this helped. Good luck with your bets this week and win some money win some money on your bets, guys, and get that W in fantasy. I will get to you tomorrow morning before the games, and I will catch y'all later.